Almost a real show. Welcome, everybody, to episode 8 of the Almost Essential podcast. We've got an even newer, updated version of Sal's camera. And every
We're
week, tune
getting
in to
there.
see where Sal will place himself and what type of position. We're
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
have a camera pointed at him, but he's extra cozy now. Um,
yeah.
we got some upgrades on that next week. You'll notice some new art. We have some brand new art for our podcast that's out everywhere. You should check us out on all the various platforms because we are now on Amazon Music, iTunes. Here's Deezer. This is Podcast Addict, Spotify, and this is the Podbean app. So we're on lots of places. And if
Tell me that it's like a one push to all thing.
it's not to start with. You have to like set it up to be that way.
Okay,
But
but it
it
is
takes a
that way
lot of work.
eventually, right? Like,
It takes a lot of work to get there, but once you're finally there, then you upload one file and then you're good to go. But
oh, nice. Okay,
but
well,
it
we're
takes
there,
a
right?
yeah, we're finally there. Episode 8, guys, we made it.
Nice. Okay.
We don't have any tiers yet, but we do have a Patreon set up. We're gonna work through the details of this, but you'll be able to support us soon, TM. Other than that, let's talk about what we have for topics today. The first thing we thought we'd mention is there's a thing going around.
Oh yeah. Oh,
This
here
is
we
kind
go.
of like a newsworthy thing that we thought we'd mention to start with.
Yeah, and this is good because I think some of you in here already might be moderators in different channels.
Right.
Tryhards on Twitch. Keep an eye out for these types of usernames because if you click their names, those profiles have an extension which logs your IP and then promptly DDoSes you when you go live.
Isn't that a miracle of science? Technology, isn't it great?
It's amazing that that extension exists. Like, Jesus.
Somebody
Yeah,
figured some shit out. Nice.
yeah.
Be careful out
Is
there.
it like a? Do you know if it's an extension that they have in the Twitch store? Like it's actually in the Twitch like ecosystem because it's got to be an extension that they run like through like the Twitch player itself. No.
I think so.
That's the only way
It's
I
just
can see it
breaking news,
working.
so I haven't looked up much of it. But it's. I don't think even if it is or isn't, they're just copying the code.
Oh,
Um.
they fixed it already.
Oh, they already did. Okay.
Yeah,
Never
yeah, yeah.
mind.
Jeremy, do you have a link? Like, do you know? Did they? Is that a Twitch support? Check out Twitch support.
Yeah, I'm going there
Like
now.
they, if you
Actually.
go to, yeah, if you go to Twitch support, I wonder if they already patched that shit up real quick.
This was a quick newsworthy.
Well, that's
I'd
crazy,
like
man.
to.
Like
I'd
that's
like to
got to
see
be in the
that's.
store. Like imagine publishing like a DDoSer to straight to the thing. That's super
I don't
nuts.
see it on the Twitch support. No,
Interesting.
there's nothing there yet.
Right.
Oh well. I'm sure that's something Twitch will patch very quickly. Just be careful going to people's
Yeah.
pages. Let's see. So on the topic list we have today, we're gonna run through a couple of different things. One of which is the PC gaming ban, where
Oh yeah.
they took. So this is a little bit of a story here. Alienware had a PC that was banned, but Dell, which owns Alienware, had a warning about this a while ago and failed to update their energy ratings for this. So this is not
Yeah.
something that's like catastrophic, and now everybody's dying to it. I think you watched a great big long video by Gamers
Yeah.
Nexus.
So I watched the
So why don't
Gamers
you
Nexus
jump into
coverage
this
of it.
one?
Yeah, it's like really straightforward, and all you have to do to understand the problem is just promptly watch the Alienware like G5 or Alienware whatever the Alienware pre-built review that they did, and then you'll go straight to that news article, and you'll understand that Dell is just shit at making pre-built computers, and they're so bad that the state of California passed a fucking law like 4 or 5 years ago on the power consumption requirements you need at idle. So we're not talking about under load. It's like you need to be including power supplies that are X power efficient under no load, like on idle.
Hmm.
and their power supplies included are so shit that they on idle they're using so much power that they don't pass the requirements anymore, which is why this PC is banned. So it's not like the power supply takes up too much power. It's that the power supply is actually too inefficient at idle.
There's a
Which,
reason
by the
people have
way,
the ratings on those. Let's
yeah,
say
it's literally the only
gold.
difference between the tiers of, like, for those of you who don't know, I think, aside from, like, obviously the parts quality, the only difference between power supplies is, like, the gold, platinum, whatever. It's actually how little power they use on idle. So if you're doing nothing, they use less power the higher the efficiency of the higher the rating. So if it's like a platinum rated, it'll use far less than like a bronze rated power supply. And so they're using a power supply in this PC so shit that the government said, "Fuck off with that. You can't sell it here." Like, and so to understand more about Dell and their shit, simply just go watch their like Gamers Nexus Alienware review of their pre-built. It's a literal fucking comedy. Like, they took a default stock cooler, like, and it turns out that the default stock cooler doesn't reach the CPU of the particular CPU they put in there. So they fucking like CNC'd a new like a puck onto the bottom to make it reach the CPU. So like the CPU is literally getting jacked up to
From an
100
engineering
degrees.
perspective, this is just like such a failure.
Dude, this is an $1,800 computer.
And
Bro, they're
we
charging
can't
like
cool
a
the CPU.
$700 premium for like 50 cents worth of fucking aluminum.
Oh,
Fuck that, man. Oh my god. I just at this point I'm like, listen. Buy buy your own computer, try and put it together. If you fail, do it again because it's literally cheaper than fucking trying to buy a pre-built where this shit has like no airflow and it's going to cook itself in a year. Watching Gamers Nexus is like take down pre-builts, like I feel like it's like Artosis playing Brood War. Like he's just like taking apart this computer and actually just can't understand like what idiot like made this shit. It's just so fucking funny, man. It's so funny. Like, and who knew that the pandemic basically forced like people who are like tech enthusiasts to look at these pre-builts because there's no better way to get like graphics cards.
hmm.
So like very good experienced reviewers looking at your shit to your case for airflow, like for like just for like what it is in the build and what it does. Like I don't think these manufacturers ever thought that anyone will waste their time who is tech savvy with this shit, but they have to because that's the only way to get parts.
It's a pretty shitty situation.
Oh,
But
it's terrible.
in general, we do have good news on this front. That this is only worth like 30 seconds of coverage time. But AMD released another GPU. It's the 6800X.
6600 XT.
6600X.
Yes.
Oh yeah, the 68 was a while back, I think.
Yeah,
Anyway,
60 as well, yeah.
in general, GPUs are much more available than they were a little while ago. They're not. It's not
Yeah, yeah.
crazy good yet, but I'm just saying in general. I actually have. There's like a notification app, Telegram, that shows you whenever an availability of a single GPU came into stock at anywhere. It would send an alert out, and then people would like race to tap it and buy it. About a week ago, I had to turn it off because it was like 30 to 40 a day. So like in general, they're starting to
Nice.
actually get to a much better
Yeah,
spot
yeah,
where people can
cracked down
actually
on the
maybe
crypto
buy
mining
one.
and-
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you were buying an AMD one over an NVIDIA one for I don't know what reason specifically, but they have another one out.
Well, the
If
way that
you
they
have-
priced it, like I've read a bit about it. So like the way
If
that
you're
they
not
priced
streaming, okay, maybe.
yeah. If you're not streaming, and that's most people. So if you're not streaming, the 6600 XT falls both in price and performance squarely between I think the 3060 and the 3060 Ti. So like there's like 379 Americans. It's like right basically there's like a gradient. They pretty much do that with every card. Like they have like a gradient step where like every other card it's like NVIDIA AMD, NVIDIA AMD,
Right.
NVIDIA AMD. So like if you're looking for that price bracket. But yeah, I mean obviously if you're a streamer, like I couldn't in good conscience recommend AMD unless I was trying to like tank your career or something. Like and give you the shittier encoder. It's just like NVENC is just better. There's just no two ways about it.
Let's
Yeah.
see. Next up, we have the framework laptop. This one we could both talk about
Oh
for
yeah.
quite a while,
We
but our
and I think we should. I
frameworks.
think it should be the majority of what we talk about today because it's such a big fucking deal, actually.
And at the end, we're gonna go through a couple of cameras and list off
Yeah.
the like a couple recommendations we have, and then lenses, and then where to buy those, and then we'll have a list of all these that we talk about or mention, or some that we might not even talk or mention. Then live on the show that we remember afterwards when we're doing links up, they're going to be in the description of this YouTube comment or our YouTube video, or in the podcast notes. We'll link all the things that we recommend or keep an eye out for. So Frameworks laptop. Linus Tech Tips did a wonderful video on this. I highly recommend you go watch this if
Oh
you're in the
yeah.
market for a laptop. Um,
He bought one.
yeah,
Like
he bought like non-sponsored, like he
I've never
purchased
seen. I
one
like
for himself, like
he said
right
that
on the
on the
spot.
show. It's the first time he's ever done that. Like he opened the he saw the product. He opened the product and he was like, "Holy shit! I need to buy one of these right now." And he loaded up the site and purchased one right there for himself.
These are
Yeah.
really cool because this
Yeah.
is right at the perfect timing when all of the right to repair stuff is going
Yeah.
on, and
Yeah.
we're starting to win victories on this front. And we're fighting against people like Apple, who people like Louis Rossman in New York are doing groundbreaking stuff in terms of like Apple will release a new product and then there's no schematic for it. There's no blueprint. There's no like, hey, what does what? He'll be the one
Yeah.
that starts an initiative, and then like other people
Well,
who
yeah. He
also look
like
in the
does
space.
some back alley deals.
Yeah.
Like rubs some backs and shit the right way, and now he's got some
And sometimes when he
schematics.
doesn't, he has to like make the schematics himself, and then the rest of the repair community uses those. So if he
Yeah.
doesn't do a backroom dealer can't find it, sometimes they have to do this just to be able to
I
repair
remember
stuff.
I was listening to him talk about it. And he was saying like, literally, there are MacBooks he can't service. Like
Yep.
some of the more recent ones, he has to just wait like 2 years for the schematic to leak,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just like part of the conundrum
Hey,
of the
which
whole thing.
capacitor do you fix? We don't know because we don't know which
Yeah,
capacitor.
you
Like
have no
nothing's
fucking clue
marked.
what any of them do.
It's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
nightmare. This is fighting right in the face of all of that. Where
yeah.
if you want to actually build your own laptop or fix your laptop or design it yourself, you can do that. One of the really cool things that I think he pointed out quite vehemently, and I also like the look of here, is all of the various parts have these QR codes on them, so you can actually,
Yes.
oh,
Yeah.
your battery's out, oh, your Wi-Fi card, whatever part it is, your memory, you can look at the QR code, find the replacement. They'll ship you
Yeah.
it. You can all the parts are easily trackable, attainable. Like they're doing their best to make it as open and serviceable as possible. It's
Yeah.
phenomenal. Like,
So
you
I
don't
guess
necessarily have to be a computer whiz or genius. This is Legos. It's kind of neat. You can
we should kind of start with like what the ethos of this laptop is. So
yeah.
well, the idea
Let's
behind this
rewind a little
laptop
bit.
and what it really like stands for is that every single component in the entire machine is user serviceable and user replaceable, including the selection of what ports you use on it. And it's like and without sacrificing thinness or like aesthetics, right? Like this thing is as thin as like a Dell XPS 15 and as I think it's CNC'd aluminum, so it's as nice looking as a Dell XPS 15. And I bring up Dell XPS 15 because it's generally considered to be one of the top end like workman's laptop. Like it's very powerful and it looks quite nice and it looks like it would look good in like a business office or whatever. So the strategy that they went with here is that they sourced their parts, so the trackpad, the keyboard, and the little touch ID guy. They source and like the screen and everything. They source those parts from the actual manufacturers that the major producers of laptops also source from. So you're not compromising when it comes to touchpad. You're not compromising when it comes to keyboard, and you're not compromising when it comes to like Touch ID to log in or whatever. And you're not compromising on screen.
The brands are like
So
actually reliable. Like I'm
yeah,
interrupting you
they're
here
literally what
to
you
show
would
you
get.
that this
Yeah.
SSD, this is a Western Digital M.2. Like they're using reputable brands for the
Yeah.
components that are being put into this.
And you can, when you buy the base kit, you can buy it with literally nothing, like
Right.
nothing except like the CPU and the battery and shit. Like, and you can source the RAM yourself and the Wi-Fi card and all that stuff. So yeah, like literally the whole thing is so repairable, right down to being able to, like, all of the screws and stuff. They all have the same screw head, and it comes with the screwdriver to open it.
Mm-hmm.
And all the screws are color coded as well. So like you can't put them in the wrong spot or anything like that. Like the whole thing is just, you know, if you spill coffee on it and you ruin the battery, you just buy a new battery and swap it in.
It's
If
kind of
you
hard to see up here, but at the very
yeah.
top, they even include extra screws in case you lose some. Like,
Yeah, they have a spare backup screw of every color in case you lose or drop or strip, I imagine, a screw. And what's crazy to me is that even like here's a really good example. Like I can give you a really good example that I might actually had if I was in like a different situation. I needed a laptop. Here's a situation that would be really sick. Okay, so I have a laptop, right? I buy this laptop this year, and in 2 years, whatever, the CPU is getting a little bit slow. I want to upgrade. The CPU and MOBO pop out. They can just take them out, and
mm-hmm.
you can swap it with the next iteration. Now they're gonna give CAD designs for external enclosures for motherboards and CPUs. So like the CPU that you're taking out of your laptop, you can just put it in an external enclosure, and now that, right, you get a little power supply, and now that is going to be its own computer, like right there, which is absolutely insane. Like you can actually service your own machines, and you can then put it into its own, put the old parts in a new enclosure, and then you could sell those or keep those for, like, a display for your, like, living room, and have like I don't know, whatever. What do they use now? Like, it used to be the Xbox, the one that was cloned off of Xbox. My dad's XKDC or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah, I know what you're
Or
talking
Raspberry
about.
Pi style thing where you have like your yeah, like a NAS style thing.
For the people who aren't this technically savvy and just are like, oh, I'm not going to actually do that. That's still way too complicated for me. What does this matter? Okay, hold up. It's not that you necessarily have to do this yourself. Now, for repair people, your neighborhood tech guy, the guy that you take your computer to when it's normally broken anyway, now he'll be able to fix your laptop and fix it for you
Yeah.
at a relatively inexpensive, very fast, very easy method. It's not necessarily, this is going to impact like everything, if this catches on, which I really, really, really think it will, and a
Man.
lot of people start moving towards this, it's going to impact the whole market in terms of like how you actually fix and upgrade and maintain your equipment. Like, this is not
Oh,
just
absolutely, dude. Like, and when I brought this up in chat, like 4 or 5 people were like, "Dude, I'm buying one."
yeah.
And that
This
for
is
a thousand
literally the
dollar
next
part, that's a
laptop. Like,
big
I
fucking
don't need.
turnover.
Here's the thing. I want to need a new laptop, but I don't need one right now. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, but if I was, I would purchase this thing in a heartbeat. Like,
Oh yeah. And
and
I don't
this
know if
is
they're
this is
big
coming
enough
from
for
somebody.
everyone in the world to want one.
Of course,
Like, they're a small little company. They're just starting out.
there might be backlog pretty soon. Is my
Oh,
thoughts on
I'm
that.
almost sure that there will be. Yeah.
But some of my thoughts on this are like, I am usually not one who purchase like the first wave of something. I'm like, hold off, wait, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
But with this, it's like, okay, well, if something's wrong, and say your the power port's bad or something like this, well, guess what? You just swap it out.
You can just fix it.
It's fixable. Like, the problem is, like,
Yeah.
most of the time it's like, oh, here's your brand new Generation 1 space book from Mars, not naming any
Yeah.
companies, and it has a fatal flaw and nobody can fix anything about it because it's just like, okay, well, now you gotta wait for Generation 2. Well, it's actually serviceable. Congratulations.
Dude,
This
one of the
is where we
craziest
should be
things
with
is
technology.
one of these little guys that you can take out is an actual hard drive.
Mm-hmm.
They have
I'm
a
showing
1
right now.
terabyte drive. You can just swap in and out and just like have portable on the fly. It's so sick, man.
In
Like,
my head, I'm thinking, I have like lots of large files. What if I just purchase another like 1 terabyte drive,
yeah.
and then I can have like files here and files, and now I have like 2 little SSDs that I can take with me and pop in here. Like,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, and it's really sick. Like, I think it's really well thought out. And I think that you really just don't, like, previous attempts for this kind of shit, like, they always came with a compromise. And I think for tech and laptops, tech has gotten small enough and compact enough that a little bit of trade off in space doesn't really mean a degradation in of performance. And so this is like the perfect time for a company like this to come out. And like for people who want laptops with more performance, like this is one thing for me that I kind of like. I kind of wish this came out before I built my small form factor build, because I could literally have gotten external GPU enclosure and then have just had like this laptop like hooked, like, propped up so that there's better airflow and whatnot, or even just
Hmm.
take the back off the damn thing because you can, um, and then just have an external GPU and then use that for practice in the apartment as opposed to building a small form factor. But I wanted to build a small form factor, okay, so like that's why I did that. But like with an external GPU, like you can actually you can actually get like your boost clocks to go that high and discrete graphics, and you're not gonna cook the chip, right? Which is really sick. And you can even like you can even take off the fucking fan and put in like cryonaut or some better thermal paste, and you can do like whatever you want with it, man. That's so fucking cool. I'm very curious to see like what the external enclosures are gonna look like too. Like they've got the whole. I just can't wait. I hope this company does really well, and
Me too.
I because they deserve to for like trying to broach the space. Like I think that they deserve to actually like get
They're
a lot of
hiring, by the
product
way,
for
so
that.
go hit them up. When you open the
Yeah,
laptop, it shows, "Hey, we're hiring." Like, go
it
check
says
us
in
out.
the laptop.
Yeah, inside
Yeah,
the laptop. You can like
yeah,
actually some of the cool things that looks like this. Okay, so before we get to like the cool, I don't know. I'm torn. There's so much to talk about with this. You can like customize your own like keypads, and like people are going to be able to 3D print out some of the frame enclosures, or like
yeah.
they're just
Did you see
offering
the
a ton of
see-through
options.
keyboard,
Yeah, I did. It's amazing.
dude? Yeah, Linus
Like
was showing that off. Dude, the see-through keyboard looks fucking baller.
it's like
Yeah,
back like 10 years ago, there was like this little fad that came about, and it was like, here's a mouse, you can see the internals of the mouse, and it's
yeah.
see clear through, and it was like, oh, but we put some glowing
It's
LEDs in
coming
there too.
back.
It's coming back with a vengeance, and it
Yeah.
looks even better like with stuff like
My
this.
the MZ1 that I have on my desk is like the Game Boy like see-through purple. When you shine the white light through it on the
Hmm.
inside, it like looks like that same purple color. It's so nice.
There's so many different cool things you're gonna be able to do
Yeah,
with
yeah.
this. You can just order it or
They
3D
have
print it.
blanks.
It's yeah.
Oh,
So like if you're a fan of the DOS keyboard look with no printing on the keyboard at all, you can get one of
yeah.
those. Like yeah.
Yeah. So as Linus brought up, like there the one of the major questions I think most people have when you have like a startup like this is like how the fuck are they gonna stay profitable? If they're selling a laptop with like very little overhead and basically like it's user serviceable. So part of part of Apple's business model is that, their laptops run at like 80 degrees Celsius to cook themselves, and then you need to go back after like 3 years. It's like how are they gonna do that? And they were like, well, what we're gonna do is that we're gonna offer obviously like upgrades. We're gonna offer like different keyboard styles, and like we're gonna offer different bezel styles. Like basically, kind of like think like freemium like video game models, like where you just like buy some skins and shit. Like they're hoping that you get into their ecosystem and that you like to buy stuff from them to support them, even though you technically could go elsewhere. You'll go to them, and that will support their business model. And honestly, I
They're
think it
also saving
probably
costs.
would.
Yeah, they're also saving costs
Yeah,
on like instead of like putting all the manpower to like assemble the PC and do some of this stuff, they're being like, we're just grabbing the parts off the shelf, putting them in a box, and you go assemble it. And they save a
yeah,
bunch of money that way because they're just listing there
yeah,
on the parts, and you can just plug them in yourself, and it's pretty easy. And there'll be plenty of YouTube videos if you get stuck and you're one of those people that's like, I'm scared. There's going to be a YouTube video that shows here's how you install a RAM. Ta-da, done. There's
yeah.
going to be a lot of support for this. One of the cool things that I wanted to mention about this was we live in a world where USB-C power is like everywhere, and I have a Samsung S10 Plus, and
Hmm.
I can charge this baby at 100 watts. It's very nice. I have a
Yeah.
Chromebook. So I have a 100-watt charger, and what I'm saying is I can charge my Chromebook with that 100-watt charger. I have the
Oh, I
same
know where you're going with this.
I have the
Yeah.
same power for this. I have the same power for my Chromebook. I can charge all my stuff with one USB-C. I already own all those chargers. They're everywhere. Like I
Yeah.
have them at my desk, at my bed, in my car. I'm good. Like, so if you want to purchase this laptop, they're like, hey, guess what, guys? You can just not buy a power adapter. You can just bring your own because you might already have all that system. Save costs. If you want to run Linux on
Nice.
this operating system, bring your own. If you want to just download it yourself, sure, easy. You can grab Windows 10 or something. But they're trying to make this as modular as possible, not just in like put your own RAM and keyboard or whatever you want in there. Literally down to the power. You don't have to buy a power brick if you already have USB-C power everywhere. It's great.
Do you want to know one cool feature that it's got that I only learned from Linus's shit?
What's that?
It's got it has a very open BIOS, which like a lot of laptops don't have. And
Yeah.
one thing that you can do is that you can, when you're plugged in, you can turn off battery so that your battery won't swell.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's happening to a lot of laptops. Is like if you actually use your laptop plugged in too much, the battery will overheat and swell. Because
If it's like a point of sale system and it stays plugged in one spot all the time. Yep.
what you're actually doing is draining your battery and charging your battery like constantly, pretty much at
Yeah, I
topped
saw
up.
that.
Yeah. So what they have is that there's an actual internal battery switch that you can just turn off, and that way when you're plugged in, if you spend most of your time plugged in, it'll just run straight from wall instead, which is sick. Super sick.
Yep.
It's a really sick feature that I don't think other laptops have at the moment.
So for our podcast listeners, I guess we should list off some of the stuff that they have on options. The processor is the i5. So they have three options with this. It's the i5 1135 G7, the i7 1165, and the i7 1185. And those are 4.2, 4.7, and 4.8 on the clock speeds. For memory, you can go all the way up to, let's see, technically I think you can bring your own and purchase your own separately if it fits in like a slot, or you have some extra laying around.
Yeah, any NVMe, if you want to use
Right.
if you find an NVMe SSD on sale from Amazon, like that's like one really sick thing about this. Like you can be like, okay, so I'm gonna buy this laptop. I need to buy this laptop in like 6 months.
Mhm.
So you can just keep an eye on Amazon sales and just probably save like 150 to 200 bucks just on picking SSDs and memory. Yeah.
I brought
Like-
this for $32 yesterday on Amazon. This
Yeah.
is a 250 gigabyte SSD. It's nothing super fancy. I wouldn't recommend most people like run a system off of this, but this is just for like I wanted to build a PC, and I have like extra stuff laying around for our living room so we can play Super Meat Boy in the living room. And I like have extra parts, and it's like, okay, here's $30, and I got a pretty nice SSD. You can choose just not to buy an SSD, and you have one laying around M.2, just slide it in there. You're good to go.
Yeah. That's a really sick thing about this thing is that like you can just source like basically you're buying from them, you buy the chassis, the keyboard, and the CPU.
Mhm.
And then like
If you want the Wi-Fi,
but even
Wi-Fi
the
is
screen
even
is
optional.
upgradable. Yeah, the Wi-Fi card is even fucking optional. I can't. It's just so like, God, it's just like they're literally the anti-Apple. It's insane. And I like Apple. I think they do a lot of good shit, and I respect their commitment to being dumb sometimes. But like, this is like I respect. It's for the exact same reason I respect the shit of these guys. Like they have a fundamental pillar for like how they want things to be, and they're following that like to the letter. The only integrated part of the machine is something that you literally can't get non-integrated, which is the CPU. Like you can't. They don't sell laptop CPUs without pins or with pins. Apparently, you're just kind of fucked in that regard.
It looks like the default display that they give you is
4K, 1440p. It looks like probably or something.
It's pretty close. 2000.
Oh yeah, it's like 3 by 2.
It's 3x2, so it's a 13
Yeah.
inch, 13.5 inch, 2256 by 1504.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same like density as 1440p, except it's taller. So it's like a little bit it's 1504 instead of.
And I bet dimes and donuts on this is. I don't know this for sure. Okay, but like, say you were like, I don't want to buy a Wi-Fi chip right now. I'm just gonna run this thing off of Ethernet. Like you're trying to save as
Ethernet.
much money as possible or whatever, and you're putting in
Yeah.
used M.2 or whatever. Uh, I'm betting dimes to donuts. You could probably just go on their site later if in 2 months you're like, I'm done with, like, this is no longer sitting at my desk 24/7. I actually want to take this on a plane and go on a trip. You can probably just buy the parts that you didn't buy right off the bat later and just get them shipped to you. Like this seems like a pretty nice way to, if you're trying to be super super economical and upgrade your laptop as you go, this seems like a nice option. With the memory they offer it in 1 gigabyte stick, two 2 gigabyte sticks, or I'm butchering that, 1 8 gigabyte, 2 8 gigabytes, 116, 2 16s, 132, and 232. So off the site, you could possibly walk away with 64 gigs and a laptop from their configurator, which is not too bad.
My question is how the fuck they're gonna do if they ever do discrete GPUs. How are they gonna do that?
I don't know,
Like,
but
that's gonna be interesting.
With their take on everything, I'm betting it'll probably be okay with how they're approaching things right now.
Yeah. It's just like, yeah, I'm curious to see how the thermals are and like how, how their next chassis that they make or like whatever, how that learns from whatever the current stuff is. Cause this is so like first gen, right? This is first iteration. Obviously it's going to perform well enough to like, run a CPU and internal GPU, but I'm very curious to see what they do. And I'm very curious to see if they do stuff like, if they'll sell like if they're like, okay, maybe this back panel needs some more ventilation, like maybe they'll just sell a new back panel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you can just upgrade that, or like if you can upgrade the fan, or like there's so many options here. It's actually fucking crazy. It's really nuts. Yeah.
It looks like on their site they've actually thought about thermals a lot, so they make a dedicated part of the landing pages. We've designed the thermal system to handle 28 watts of continuous processor load by making space for unusually large 65 millimeter by 5.5 millimeter cooling fan and designing our airflow paths. We've done this without sacrificing quietness. They allow the CPU to run up to 60 watts turbo. So they're putting thought into this. They're not just like, oh, hey, this thing's going to bake and you're going to fry an egg on it because we didn't include any cooling like Apple does. I know we're shitting on Apple, but like, it's... Fuck. Damn.
Well, they deserve it for the 2018 model, man. Where you had to put it in the fucking fridge to get the performance that... when I learned that it was like literally turboing below base clock because they literally failed on thermals that hard, I was like, okay, so you guys deserve to be roasted for like the next 10 years.
You want a fun experiment? Go on Amazon, search up how many different Apple there's these cooling pads that they have in their fans. Go on Amazon, put in like Apple like MacBook Air cooling pad, and just like look at the different options. There's people, just so many of them because it's such a big problem. It's hilarious.
Fun side tangent about laptop performance, like because laptops can right now the Intel laptop processors actually a generation ahead of their desktop processors, and they're very good. It turns out that if you actually get like a good one of those, like the cooling pads with the fans in them, you can actually get very stable boost clocks out of them because they're just lacking in airflow. Wes, like one of my buddies, was running his Razer Blade, and he managed to get extremely consistent performance out of it just by doing that. Whereas before it would like tank after like 2-3 minutes. Yeah,
it's kind of neat.
Apple's gonna announce a new tech soon. I mean, maybe M1X or iPhone 13. I don't know. Who knows? They have so many things going on. They've got AirPods 3 as well in the pipe, probably. Who knows, man, when it comes to Apple. All right, what's next?
So next up, I kind of wanted to run through a couple of the options people had for cameras. Streamers. Okay. Just before we get into that, there's webcams, and basically, I think we didn't talk about this a lot in advance. Some of this is kind of on the fly, off the cuff from the two of us. But I think the one recommendation the both of us would have right now is not to buy a Logitech Brio, but actually to buy. Actually, before we go any farther, we're not sponsored by Frameworks for anything in the past, and we're not sponsored for anything in the future currently. Right. Anything on this episode, we're not sponsored for anything. So the Elgato people released a brand new webcam that's around the $200 price point, depending on where you can buy it. And it's so good it leaves the brio and the dust from what it's looking
Oh,
like
it's yeah.
on the what we've from people that have been shooting footage with both side by side and comparing it to the Logitech C920 and various other things. So,
Yeah,
uh,
just for the level of customization in the image, the
yeah,
face cam wins. Like,
the
so
colors and
my
contrast is
recommendations
decent
for
as well.
my recommendations for webcam is like C920 if you're broke, and if you have some money but not a lot of money and are just doing it casually, the Elgato face cam is probably where you want to go. I mean, it saves the data to the camera, which is more than I could say for Logitech shit. Um, yeah, I mean, face cam looks pretty good. It's not terrible. I saw Epos Box's like take on it, and you can tell like the camera's quite deep, so there's quite a bit of lens.
Mm-hmm. It's a
Um,
thick boy.
yeah, they clearly thought it through. There's no mic on it, so they didn't waste any money on that. There's no wasted space with the mic or anything like that. It's got like a little lens cover. That's it, which is sick. That's really good for them. Like I think that this is a product that I'd be comfortable recommending even to like mid tier streamers as well because, I think most people have like a multicam setup of some kind. Like they got another camera somewhere, either for like a cat or their hand cam or just like a different angle for them in the room or like an overall cam. Like I think that like you can use a secondary camera. So I mean, this is a decent piece of kit to just have. I I got into like again I got into a conversation with Jason about it and I was like I don't like that you can't upgrade it and it's not good enough to beat a mirrorless. So like at $200 it's in this awkward price point where like you're like oh my god do I save a couple $100 more and then buy a good camera like a mirrorless camera or do I stop here and get this? But you're not gonna look as good as somebody who's got a mirrorless camera on hand. It's just not gonna happen. So. I mean, yes, but the stream cam is more expensive, I'm pretty sure, than the face cam, and stream cam is also so Chicken Man says stream cam is pretty comparable to face cam. And I think stream cam is like a little bit more expensive and I think the tuning is worse. So like and that makes a big difference. I think the tuning by Elgato makes it a very, very, very compelling product, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna get more and more software updates too with it, and Elgato is good for that. Like
They're very
they
good and reliable
yeah
with like updating their software and profiles and
yes
keeping their ecosystem constantly
yeah,
updated.
and it'll be integrated with Stream Deck, so you can have different profiles for it,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure, and then swap between them, and you can have all sorts of shit, I'm sure.
And it's a decent quality upgrade if somebody's wanting to do like a okay, so this is a little bit of a we're gonna pull to the side, but there's a good reason. um if you're wanting to do like a situation where you're like, hey, I'm a professional player, or like I think I'm good enough at StarCraft and I want to show like my keyboard or whatever, um
Yeah,
and it's and you have a C920, you can grab that baby, point it down at your keyboard or your mouse if you're a first person shooter, and you're like, look at my insane flicks. I'm not actually hacking. You can see me flick when I flick, etc. That's a
yeah,
thing with Overwatch, sadly. And then you can have multiple camera inputs and have a higher quality one for your face. Um, on that regard, as we transition over to like, you are more than a mid tier streamer, you're semi professional, and you want like multiple inputs for cameras, before we get into like mirrorless DSLRs and the lenses you would need for that, you need a way to like capture those. Currently, there's not too many of these cameras that have a direct input method from the camera into actual OBS into your computer. There's not too many that have a USB direct input. They're coming. They're on the way. They're next generation. In a year or two, there might be a couple out now. But one of the ways to capture this footage is there'll be a cord that comes out of the camera, and there's a reason why we recommend certain cameras is because they have HDMI output. As soon as you have HDMI output, you can capture the feed. This is basic, but then you can have multiple camera shots and angles like this. This is somebody, example of DJ, front on view, side view, top down view. If you're thinking of upgrading your camera to start with, you can use your secondary one and it's not a complete waste. So one of the things that's a nifty option that people might consider is this one would go directly inside your computer. It's the Elgato 4K 60 Pro. Again, Elgato is a really solid, reputable brand for this. This one's actually on sale for, instead of $250, it's $225 at the moment. And this is capable of capturing 4K at 60 frames a second. I believe this one also does capture 120 frames of 1080p, which is kind of nice.
240 hertz.
240 all the way up.
240 hertz.
Okay, that's even better. Okay.
There's an the MK2 does 240 hertz. I'm pretty sure. If you scroll down, it's somewhere there.
Let's see.
Yeah, keep going to where they do their.
Oh yeah, here it is. 1080p at 240 hertz. Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the really nice things about this is if you are, this might not be specifically applicable for cameras, but if you are using one of these to capture video footage of like your primary gaming PC,
you would use this for your primary gaming PC,
and
100%.
This is going into your secondary gaming PC. It doesn't have to pick. OBS will be buttery smooth because it has all 240 hertz to pick from, and your recordings will be really nice. So this is a very good recommendation. They also have a couple other models here that'll scale down in price and bitrate, stuff like that. If you are trying to go with not Elgato, there's an AverMedia one that's available for $138, 134. Sorry.
Yeah, but this is 1080/60, right?
Yeah, and as we go down, like you lose a whole bunch of different features as soon as you go to this model. So this is not one I actually recommend, but it does support sound. This is the model I'd recommend the most if you're a big time and you are doing multiple feeds of stuff.
Fucking Ravi, dude. The more expensive it is, the better it is.
Yeah.
No, but yeah.
So
you know what a really good one is for people who do HDMI sources? You want to look at the Camlink Pro.
I'll pull that up real quick. Yeah. Oh, actually, I already have that. It's already up. That was this page, actually. See, that was this page that I was showing you at the DJ. That was on my recommendation list.
Yeah.
Because you get a nice 4 HDMI inputs and outputs here. Another Elgato product.
Sick. It's 4 cam links in one card.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really sick. This is I probably will I think my next two purchases are 240 hertz capture card and and one of these, so that I can just get rid of all of the external capture cards I have in the studio and stuff, and just have the two. You're basically done with that once you get the two of them.
For me, this is one of the next purchases that's on the list so that I can capture several different feeds going into production PC, so that when I'm doing big shows and there's a lot of different feeds, I can render stuff on some computers and then pipe them in without saving a lot of load.
You have that much shit going.
Yeah, well,
you have a 1950X too?
No, I have the 5800, but I'm going to upgrade to the 59 at some point in the future. But still.
Yeah, you definitely, because it's 816 versus 1632, right? That's a big jump.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's one of the things that is like, you know how earlier on your stream you were talking about like business purchases and like being able to write stuff off. Like I've got some of this is like they're not, a lot of these shows that I run don't actually like, oh hey, you just made like a $400 purchase to make the show better. Like you can actually just pay yourself out of it. Well, some of that has to come out of my pocket. I can't necessarily just bill a show directly for that.
Well, I mean, you can write stuff off, but you still gotta eat.
Exactly.
There's
a limit.
You can't write the food. You can't write it off and then pay for the food with that.
There is, to be fair and mention, there's, real quick, there's also another competitor here that looks pretty decent, but they don't have like a lot of ratings on this. They have a 4 HDMI capture for 240 and then another one for 440. And the 440 one supports sound over the HDMI, whereas this one's only the video feed. Other than that, I think that's about all we need on capturing it. A Camlink or 4K 60 Pro MK2 are the two recommendations we have for most people on this. As far as cameras, where do you want to start with mirrorless? Let's start with something that doesn't have a lens, and then people can purchase their own lens. You want to do
Yeah,
like
so like
Sony?
actually Sony literally just announced a camera I think that most streamers will buy.
Is it available now or
Um
is it later?
I don't know if it's out yet or if it's like being released very shortly, but it just made its way to Linus's like channel and it's the ZV-E10. So you have your ZV-10 which is one that
Oh, it's for
Artos has
pre-order.
bought.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like really close to being out. So like it's basically
August.
the
It says shipping will begin August 24th. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the ZV-10 is a 699 or maybe 799 all in one with a very decent lens like in it. Um so not this one, but if you look up the ZV-1, so just have if you have them both so we can swap between. The comparison is very very direct. Um yeah, so the ZV-1 is like is what I think most streamers should probably get like right now if they had to if you had a gun to their head. I think you get like 90% of the way to like the highest quality you can sort of achieve. Um, and then the final bit, maybe 80% of the way. Like I think, yeah. So here you have an all-in-one solution. You have your zoom lens but it's like a pretty good it's like a pretty good f-stop. Like it's pretty good. It's decent. It's a decent camera and like it goes f1.8 to 2.8, so it starts at a very good f-stop. And from the demos I've seen in good lighting, this thing looks really good. Like it's comparable to even like my mirrorless cameras, the A6300 and the A6000. It obviously doesn't hold a candle to the A7C, but that's a completely different beast. Um, so this is like what I recommended to Dan and to Artosis, and this is what I recommend to I think most people, who just don't want to deal with a lot of shit, but they want like really 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 high quality because this is like very high quality. Now the step up from this, it's actually cheaper with the base camera, which is the ZV-E10. The reason that it's a step, like it's a little bit cheaper, but it's also a step up, is because it's this camera but with no lens, and that means that you can throw any lens on it. Zoom lens, like you can throw $1,500 lenses on it. You could throw the Sigma lens on it that I've got here, which is very very good, gives it like some buttery smooth bokeh. You can throw like the Sony G lens I have over there, the f1.8. Um,
The reason he's
this is what
mentioning these is because lenses are not all lenses are compatible with everything. So if you're in the
yeah.
Sony
Well,
lineup, they
this will take any Sony E mount
right.
lens, which at this point there's a lot of them, and
It's very common.
yeah, it's a very common lens mount. And the nice thing about this is that the APS-C sensor is good, and this allows you to upgrade your lens over time. So you can start with a kit lens and you can upgrade to a better lens when you got another $500 in your pocket
Mm-hmm.
to do that. I think this makes way more sense than basically anything else at the moment. Like even going A6400, like you're paying for features you don't need and won't use. Going like A7C is like just an insane like drop in value, I think. I think you're better off just spending money on lighting and production setup over buying a camera more expensive than this. Like
Especially if
I
you're
think
doing green screen. It's very important for your green screen to be very well lit if you expect your software to filter out the
yeah.
green screen. So it's more important to be like, hey, I'm going to make sure I have lights that light up the green screen so it disappears rather
Yeah.
than have a weird effect with it. Spend good
Yeah.
money on
If
good
you well,
lighting.
if you're doing green screen like an Elgato Facecam might probably be okay. I have no idea. I have to check. But like good
There's still
lighting is probably more important.
yeah, there's still people
Right.
that want a green screen and mirrorless camera.
Yeah,
Like
the high
so,
quality
Nate
face.
could
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
blue camera and blue clouds floating in the background for himself.
Yeah.
Uh, so this is a really good recommendation. Do
There's a
you
lot of green
recommend?
screeners left, Ravi. Ravi's
Yeah,
saying who the fuck uses a green screen in 2021 and I'm not.
says the guy with his own animated background, the green screened out. Yeah,
Yeah.
pixel art guy.
I know.
Looks really good though.
I know he uses a green screen, man.
Yeah,
I've seen his stream.
I'm just roasting him a little bit as well.
Oh, it's fun.
So if so, this is at the around the $600-700 price range. for these. The ZVE, let's see, ZVE10 is available August 24th, and the ZV-1 is available now.
Yeah, ZV-1's been out for a
It's
while.
gonna ship, usually in a couple days, depending on where you are.
Yeah.
Um,
I think ZV-1 makes a lot of sense if you the more portable you are. Like if you're like moving around a lot, like it's a pocketable camera. And it's quite high quality. So like you can be quite mobile and have quite a good like vlogging camera or stream camera or whatever. Like this is for somebody I think who's like kind of on the go and also using it at home in their own stream setup, that kind of thing.
mhm.
And if you're more of like a this is my setup at home kind of thing, I think the ZV-E10 is probably a better idea.
How would you rank like a used 6300,
I
6400 versus one
I
of
haven't
these?
seen too many shootouts. Like the camera's not out yet. My guess is that
No,
it's
I
the
was
same
meaning
sensor.
versus the ZV-1, the one that is out.
Oh, so the ZV-1 I think is the same sensor, but the lens is fixed. So I think they'll probably perform extremely similarly. But the thing is, it's kind of cheating, right? You'd have to compare the 6400 with kit lens to the lens on the ZV-1, and then I bet you the ZV-1 probably beats it. To be honest, the kit lens is like pretty shit. Like I don't even think I think the especially in vlogging setups because like you have to think about the specific f stops they gave f1.8 to 2.5. Like
Hmm.
that's very good in low light, right? Like that's very good for a bokeh on like when it's close, like in the field of view. So when you compare it to an average kit lens on an A6400 or A6300, like these lenses are meant for slightly longer zoom. Like they're actually going to look worse in the intended scenario for the ZV-1. I'm betting that the A6400's um, kit lens looks worse. But when you have an A6400 and you toss a $500 lens on it, like yeah, it's gonna get shit on. Like it's not even gonna be close. But that's cheating. Like the camera is
For
almost twice as much now.
for
Like
people
it's
that
not.
want
Yeah.
that quality though, like if they want like better than if say so the total price for a ZV-1 and then a lens, we're looking at around
Do you mean
less than
ZV-E10 in a lens or ZV-1 in a lens?
one. Like if somebody
Okay.
wanted to
Okay.
purchase something like right now and
Yeah.
they got a lens, the total what they're looking at with shipping and everything is probably maybe $800 in that range, right? $700-800 looks like.
Well, the ZV-1 comes with a lens.
Okay, so it's like
Built it's
750.
an all in one, but the
70.
lens that they chose is
Gotcha.
specifically like yeah.
So this is a
It's the
750 price point plus
yeah, it's
shipping.
750 flat. Like it's just
750 flat.
750. Yeah.
So if somebody wants to spend say $1,200 and get a really nice setup, what do you recommend? What's a step up from?
I think if you're not like I think the idea is to go used on the camera and buy a new lens, right? Because you can pick up like an
Right.
A6000 or an A6300, probably for anywhere between like depending on which camera you pick up, anywhere between like 300 USD and like 600 USD, and then you pick up a $400 to $500 lens, and now you're probably at like 1,100 bucks.
And you
But like
increase your
buying new, you're
quality,
buying, yeah, it's gonna be insane. It's gonna be really good.
increase your quality quite a bit.
Oh
If
yeah,
somebody wanted, let me think of like, so most of our audience, I'm trying to think of like somebody that most of our audience watches that would get like that level of quality. Let's say Rotterdam. So Rotterdam's camera
yeah.
and
Roddy's got a very solid setup now.
right. So like, what does he use that is
I
in
think he upgraded to an A7C, but
right?
he could be an A6400 now. He could be
So
either one. I don't know if he bought the camera.
I think he's in that with that level of quality that people are
Yeah.
expecting. They're around 11-1200
Oh,
dollar
he
price
did buy
range.
the A7C.
Yeah,
It was whether or not he got the f1.8 Sony G lens.
right,
I didn't know about that because it's compatible with the Sigma lens that I've got. Yeah, so he's got a full frame sensor in that
right,
camera.
and that makes a big difference because like when we're looking at
Oh,
other
that's
people,
cheating. Yeah.
so when we're looking at other people and saying this specific look and style is like really good, well, there's several layers to this. If you
Yeah.
want like the best of the best of the best, like what if I want to double
Well, hold
cells?
on. So Roddy's camera, like if you take Roddy's setup, right?
Yeah.
Like the nice thing about full frame is that he gets the whole room from where the camera is.
Hmm.
If he had just like moved his setup back a bit, he could have used his old camera to get a very similar like range of like field of view, and the quality would be very close. Like, it's just the thing is that full frame gives you just more. It gives you more field of view because obviously it's a bigger sensor. Like more, you get more data, and obviously the low light is better. But like, it doesn't have to be that way. Like an A6400 can look almost as good. You just at that point you need to increase the lighting quality. Like that has to be in ideal scenarios, they're gonna be so close. Like the average person is gonna be really hard for them to tell. You're talking about like color quality and that kind of shit. It's not gonna be very easy to tell between like an A6400 and an A7C. It's gonna be very tough, right? Like especially with the same lens. So like if I take the same lens and put it like if I take a crop sensor lens and I put it on both of those like a crop sensor camera and a full frame camera, being able to tell is going to be difficult. Like even I'd have a hard time telling the difference. So like I just think that people who get full frame, like the only reason I got a full frame camera is because Monty said he'd give me one if I played fucking Outlast, and I was willing to be scared shitless for like 8 hours to go for that. But like I could not justify that. Like I just couldn't justify it. Not even if I had $5,000 spare. Like there's so many places that you're better off. Now if you want to go that far, like obviously, you know, if you're Ravi and you're like, okay, so like I have money and like more expensive equals better, like what do I buy? Okay, go full frame, have fun. But like, I think that to be honest, like for a streamer who usually spends the vast majority of their time in like a tiny square, like over top of their gameplay, I think that you know a ZVE10 or like a used A6000, like these sensors are overkill already. Like the only reason that you're getting them is because that sensor plus a good lens is just way above a regular webcam, even the face cam,
For most streamers,
right?
that's perfectly fine, and that's a very
Yeah,
recommendation. What I'm
at that point, like you're just once the lighting looks good, like it's always going to look great. Like it's gonna look good
what I'm trying to
more
say is
than
like between
yeah.
when we're talking about people that are on camera talent that work on ESL broadcasts and StarCraft broadcasts, when they want a 1080p 60 frames a second, very high definition quality camera that can get when they have enough money to spend that they can look very very professional with this. That's
Yeah.
the next step I'm trying to ask. Like, what is your perfect recommendation for this?
So
If they
like
want to
you've
spend
got the
like
money. Okay, so you want me to
13,
list like a camera? Or we're talking
yeah,
about like, okay, so if let's say we're settling are we settling below full frame? We're not going full blown, but we're talking
we
about like
don't
really close.
exactly. We
Yeah.
don't need
Okay.
full frame, but we need something
Yeah.
that
So
looks like ESL studio quality. So sorry if you can hate me. Calling out Pig a little bit. He's got a camera right now that is doing 30
yeah,
frames a second, but is 1080p.
1080p.
So
Yeah, he's using
then it
webcam.
gets cropped down and it gets put on a broadcast. But when he's full screen, it looks It looks terrible if he tries to go 720p. And it's like we're trying to recommend him something that's like, how do I look more
Yeah.
professional? Because he's got a
I think
beautiful
that
backdrop and the lights look amazing.
yeah.
And if he had a better sensor and like a 1080p 60 frame second camera, his setup would look amazing. Also, somebody's like, okay,
Do you see Ravi in chat
yeah,
right
I
now?
do. I'm trying.
Ravi
I'm
says,
trying to
okay,
laugh.
whatever Sal says next, I will buy. The next 45 seconds, I got my Amazon open. One click buy turned on.
Oh god. Okay.
Okay.
So,
So,
but hang
yeah.
on one second. So we also have people that are like, say Todd, who is streaming in like a small area, and he doesn't necessarily have a lot of space here. But like you'll see, he's got a pretty nice setup, and but behind his desk right here, there's not a lot of room to actually mount stuff. So I'm trying to be like, okay, well, let's get a really good recommendation for somebody who does have the space, and for people who don't have the space, make the space. And the second question is, how do you mount that into a very tight setup that's like this?
Oh, there's a good wall mount that you can buy that's like a tiny little wall mount guy, and you just find the stud or
Is that the
whatever, and you
Elgato one
just join.
from?
Yeah, you can buy the Elgato one. They
Okay,
have that
that's the
one.
one I'll
That one's
list.
just like a fixed guy. Like anything with moving parts, I'll take the higher end version. But any static piece
I'll
of
list
tech,
both of those in
I'll
the
take
description
your
then.
I'll take your generic ass, like Vivo, whatever. Like, okay, you bolt it to the wall and it never moves. Like, it's fine. I don't. But if it's like a mic arm and every day I'm like throwing it around, like tossing it up and down, yeah, give me the good one. Like, give
Right.
me the
It's
one
worth the
that's
money. It's
smooth.
really worth the money.
Yeah, it's
Especially if
absolutely
you
worth the money.
spend
Yeah.
$2,000 or so on a camera lens. Okay,
Yeah.
so now it's
Yeah. So
recommendation
you
time. Go.
Okay, so if I was like, okay, so if I need a base for a camera that's like, so I think that I just checked in Canadian dollars, the A6400 is $1,200. So it's probably 900 USD or 1K. That's my rec. My recommendation is the A6400. I think that I don't think Sony's released a newer one. It's just got a really good feature set, and it's just a great camera. It's got the flip up like monitor so you can see everything.
Hmm.
I mean, it's just,
This
yeah,
is actually
it's
what I'm
great.
using right now.
A64.
Yep.
Yeah, A6400 is my go-to recommendation for people who've got like some money but not an insane amount of money, who don't want to like blow a fucking fortune.
Base camera for this is about a
Yeah,
little bit under 900 USD for the
yeah,
camera
and then
only.
I would recommend the Sigma f1.4, um 16 mil. Is it 16 mil? I think that's the one. That's the one that I've got on this thing. Right now, it looks kind of like I look kind of weird because it's like far. I need to be closer. So, but like,
Sigma.
yeah, no, f1.4.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. I actually have this one saved because I think we talked about this.
Yeah,
We
this
talked
lens
about this a
looks
while back.
so like this is like this lens is like one of those lenses like once you get it in the pocket, like once you've got your lighting set up and you get it like at the right distance from your face,
When you get stuff
the
tuned in.
background blur is fucking so good. Like so fucking good. Yeah, Amazon recommends that lens and they should because it is amazing. For the price, so good. So good, dude. So good. It's really, really, really good. Excellent lens.
So, something that's we should probably cover here for people who might have different setups is I'm going to swap to this screen real quick. We actually have a couple different options here, and so we should probably let people know or like give a quick refresher on the difference between like a 30 millimeter and a 16 millimeter and how far away they are and what the difference
Oh,
is with
dude,
like
yeah, yeah. 30 mil is like you're zoomed in.
right.
Holy shit.
You
Like
are it's like
it's the
telescopic
difference.
telescope.
It's the difference literally between seeing like in this instance, like if you look at my setup right now, like
Hmm.
where I'm sitting, like it would be the difference between seeing my face like this, like that a 30 mil would be like this. This is what you would see. My face would be fucking huge. Like I think roughly like that. You'd be like really zoomed in and shit. So you need your camera actually maybe from this distance like this much. If I recall correctly, cuz I remember like I bought it when I got the A7C, I went and I got a 30 mil and I hooked it up and the bokeh that came out of that was actually insane. Like everything was so blurred out. It was so fucking nice. I was just enamored by it. But like the problem with that is that I had the camera all the way at the back wall and you could just like see my head. Like that was it. Everything was blurred in the background. It looked fantastic, but like there was just no field of view. So I got the 16 mil f1.8 for the full frame and like you can just see everything. Like you can see literally the whole room, like wall to wall. Everything that's behind me, you can see it with like very little distortion. It's really sick.
So
So it's a huge
the number
difference.
here is
Yeah.
lower the better if you want wide angle.
Lower the
The
wider.
higher the number,
Better
the
better
more
is a
zoomed in.
very fucking weird
Yeah,
term
sorry,
to use
sorry.
here. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you're trying to get a lot of the lower this number, the wider the angle.
Yeah.
The higher this number, the more tight the field of view.
Yeah. So again, this is like why for streamers and stuff, and streamers tend to turn into content creators quite a bit. Like this
I
is
do have a
why
tendency.
I really don't like to say buy a webcam. Like I have a real like it gets like stuck coming out of my mouth because like when you lock yourself into one like just one thing that's like plugged into your computer all the time and you need to take a camera with you on the go, like you're not setting yourself up for being able to do that. And then when you lock yourself into one lens, like you're fucked in that way too,
You can't
right?
change it. You can't
You
upgrade
can't
it.
change it. You
You
can't get a
moved.
zoom
You
lens.
moved to a different
Yeah,
spot. You want a different angle. You could just swap the lens in
yeah,
and out. Like having a custom ability there is
yeah.
fantastically powerful.
And it's like one of those things that kind of adds up. Like, it took a lot of work for me to be able to just be like sitting at my computer.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was gonna be much easier. Like, and then come over and sit over here in like the same stream. Like, I have three cameras and three lenses and like all this shit just to get that to happen, because to get it to work all seamlessly without that was actually a giant pain in the ass. It just didn't look good. So I just like didn't want to ever do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So like it's one of those things where, well, now, like, okay, so what if I want to put the zoom lens over here? Like, so you have a ton of customizability. Like, what if I want to try and put the G lens, the Sony G lens, like on over here? Like, there's a bunch of ways I can sort of change everything up, because everything's like, it's got an ecosystem with Sony.
In
But
case you're
yeah,
wondering
like,
about Cell's camera quality right now, there is the to be considered that like we're highly cropped in, zoomed in on him
oh
when
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
this is
yeah,
his room point of
yeah.
view. This is like he's
Next
max
next
chilling,
week I'll
max.
have it. Yeah, next week I'll have like the camera on a boom arm that comes like closer, so it'll be it. This is like a little bit far away from this lens. Like, you don't get you don't get the blur that you kind of want. I
Right.
don't know. Yeah, it still looks good, and like the colors look good.
Mm-hmm.
But the lighting from this position is a little fucked up. I think I need to buy a lens, or buy a light to put over here. I think. I'm not sure 100% what I want to do with like this whole thing.
Anyway, so our two
You relax,
recommendations for
Rob.
this.
Jesus Christ. Okay, yeah. So, but my general, like, what I think most like budget oriented people should do. So like, let's say Chicken Man, right? Chicken Man's a small streamer. He's like, what do you got in there? Like, between 20 and 100 viewers on any given day, depending on what you're casting and whatnot. Like, you got some bucks to throw around, but like not a ton of bucks. What I would do is I would check Facebook Marketplace and like whatever Kijiji or whatever the hell it is in the States for used shit. Keep an eye out for an A6000, um, or an A5100, or like any of the or an A6300 used.
Those are
They
all
all
really
have the
solid.
same. They all have the same sensor.
Mm-hmm.
It's the feature set changed, but the sensor's the same, and they all use the same mount. So like, even if you're not going to buy the lens, you don't have a lot of money. Even if you have like $300 like kicking around, those cameras are timeless. Like, as long as they work, like they work. So you pick
Don't
one of
drop them in
those
the
up, even
water,
if it sits in a
then you're good.
shelf for like, half a year before you can afford to pick up a Sigma lens. Like, you just saved yourself $700 for almost exactly the same quality. Right, and you're gonna get there. Like, if you stick in the content creation game long enough, you have to, and you believe in your content, you're going to get to that point. It's gonna happen. Eventually, you're competing with the big kids, and they all have like good-looking streams, and you look like, something out of the early thousands, and you've got to change that eventually.
So one
So
thing
if
that
you, yeah,
so
continue.
one thing that some people that might be like, I want to jump in with this and I want to get the body, but like, can I get like an intermediate lens that might give me like a medium? Like, do I go
Yeah, get
from
the
like
kit lens.
this right here to which is $900, and then like I add on a almost $370 lens? Okay, that adds up. But like, can I get the lens later?
Yeah,
Of course. So the recommendation I would do here would be get the it comes with, if you, or if you're on Amazon. Oh, by the way, we should link this up so that your Amazon affiliate codes, all the stuff we have, go to your
oh
thingamabob.
yeah, sure, we can do that.
Um, so that you get something from this. They have a option that comes with a 16 to 50 millimeter lens, and then I just leave it all the way zoomed out as much as possible for most
Yeah,
applications.
well, it'll be a lower f-stop, but you know what
Yeah,
else you can do? I had
and what's that?
35
It's a
millimeter.
$100
Sorry, go ahead.
difference, is what
Yeah,
I'm saying. It's like they can purchase the
yeah.
body only for 800, and then for $1,000 they can get the whole thing, and then they're good to go. Okay, go ahead.
So I had the kit lens on my A6300 at first. Sorry, this is
Mm-hmm.
actually directly related to this. I had my
It's important. Go.
A6300, right, direct, like, and I bought it with the kit lens, and then I was like, man, like the quality is like okay, I guess. And then I went to Henry's, which is a local Canadian like camera chain, and I was like, "Hey guys, like, what can I do here?" And they're like, "Well, yeah, of course, kit lens is terrible." So they're like, "Any prime lens." So I bought the cheapest prime lens, which was a 35 millimeter Sigma lens, and I don't even know if they sell it anymore. I think they do. It was like this little silver one, and it needed to be really like quite far away, um, and the quality difference was fucking insane. And when I finally got like a different lens, and I had like a backup lens and stuff like that, and I sold that lens, and I can't remember what I purchased. I think I purchased the zoom lens with some of the money from that. I sold it for $90. So I'm pretty sure you can just go in there and pick up a used prime lens, like which is 35 mil or whatever, and just get that quality instead. Like check the used market. I can't repeat this enough. I feel like one of those like Twitter people is like, I can't repeat this enough. Like I got the clapping emojis. Used for camera shit, so important. Okay? It's so clutch because these parts don't degrade that much, and they hold their value incredibly well. And that's why these things, they like these things, you buy them and you don't feel that bad because when the resale value doesn't really go down. Like the A6000 came out like 5 years ago, and you can still buy one for like half of its original sale value, which is insane as far as electronics and gear goes. Like
Keeping the value
to
is
hold
huge.
to hold value that long, like
Yep.
try buying a 6-year-old computer for half its value. Like well, GPU is not included. Like everything else is like you're just not going to be able to do it. It holds value very well. So lenses especially.
So keep an eye on like where you purchase it from. Purchase from a reputable source. Don't go in a back alley with a guy with a gun and a knife. But like, look at what you're purchasing.
Yeah,
But
like any
one of the
any
things that
local camera shop, like
right,
yeah,
especially some that like has like at least a little bit of returnability or reputation with this. Like
yeah,
if I go on Amazon right now, there's one that says camera body, charger, USB cable, not original, scratch on screen. Okay, here we
nice.
go. He's
Yeah,
counting
dude,
the
fuck
screen
yeah,
on the back, and you get it for. So he's talking about not. He's talking about this piece right here, the back of it, like what you're finding in. He's not talking about this
yeah.
piece. So as long
Who
as it's
gives
not
a
on this
shit?
piece here. Oh, I
Yeah,
can purchase that. Like I'm not looking at this. This doesn't actually affect the image quality, and I can purchase that for only. Let's see, what was it?
$400 off.
$400 off. This is yeah, like
That's a
sure.
huge savings, man. That's
And
amazing.
there's several of these.
Yeah,
So it's not just lenses that are used. Just keep an eye out on what you're purchasing, and yeah, you can save a lot of money this way. Instead of it going from like a two
well,
thousand dollar purchase or $1,500 purchase, you can get that down to 1,000 with deals like that.
Jeremy says this is interesting talking about it holding value while saying it's way cheaper used. Yeah, but most of these have some sort of glaring flaw. Like if it isn't damaged in any way, it'll hold its value really well. But if you damage it, it's just that it so happens that scratching the shit out of the screen is is completely useless. It doesn't matter at all when it comes to actually recording your broadcast. Like you're not looking at the screen anyway. Yeah,
The other things that are worth mentioning here is
depends on the glaring flaw.
yeah, yeah. If it doesn't turn on or doesn't include a battery, okay, well now you need to consider the price of a
Yeah,
battery. But one thing that we should really quickly mention. So this is the 6300 I'm showing you here.
yeah,
This and the 6400 and maybe the 6200 have like Wi-Fi built in, so it'll if you capture a picture, if you're on the go and you're at a convention and you take a picture, you can grab it from your phone wirelessly from the camera, which is kind of neat.
yeah.
Something
That's
to
pretty
consider.
sick.
Most of these will come with a battery. If they don't, you can grab a battery yourself. I will link in the description. There is a USB powered battery. So the biggest thing with these are on running all the time. It'll go on the bottom. It's a fake battery that goes in there. It plugs into USB power, and you're good to go. In order to get the picture out, there's a adapter that goes right in here. Oops. And it's a mini HDMI to HDMI, and then you grab one of those cords. Those are important because I have people that are like, "Hey, what do you recommend with everything?" And then I give them the list, and then I'm like, "Oh, I forgot a cord," and then they get all the parts, and they're like, Now I gotta wait another
Yeah.
week for the cord to come in. So get
Micro HDMI.
micro HDMI to HDMI so that goes into your auto capture, and then you're good.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's about it for the being almost
Yeah.
comprehensive.
Yeah.
No, Ravi, we're
The
not
camera
talking about
market's like a
microphones on
huge
cameras. Shut up.
is a huge meme, dude. Like there's so many ways that you can approach it, and then like that's just I'm not even like a Sony fanboy. I just think that they do low light and autofocus really well, which are two things streamers really want.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't want to touch a camera while you're streaming, and obviously like most of us are degenerates and don't like a lot of light, so low light's really dope. There are other brands too, like and I'm not even I know a lot about cameras, and like I only know like quite a bit about one brand, and I've studied quite a bit. So like there's so much to know. Photographers have a huge like plethora of knowledge about this kind of shit that I just don't have. But I think like what happens is they all come out very similarly.
Mm-hmm.
So like whatever just does well at the things that are frustrating, like autofocus and low light, people just pick those. But Canon does pretty well, I think. The newer Canon cameras do pretty well in mirrorless, and so does the Lumix, Panasonic.
Those are both solid. Just the one thing to keep
Yeah.
in mind is when we're telling people to go look at other cameras is make sure that it has a HDMI out and that it can capture and output video at the same time. Because sometimes some cameras have issues where the HDMI out only works after you're done shooting, and it's so just be aware of that. Just make sure you grab the right one that's ready for streaming. Canons do have
overheating issues.
That is true.
But like I think this is older.
It's like so one of the things that's
Yeah.
to mention is those are the cameras from like a year or two ago. But we also were mentioning, hey, go pick up used cameras. So it's like, okay, well, do be aware that if you go pick up a used camera, and if you buy a new Canon, you're probably not gonna have it. If you buy a used Canon, you might actually have overheating issues. Just be aware of it.
They just moved to mirrorless,
Right?
So like mirrorless is way better for overheating. But then of course you're buying first gen mirrorless technology because it's not Sony's, so that has its own like plethora of problems. I'm sure.
And this was like a speed running version. A while back, like a year ago, we tried to do like a comprehensive version of this and talked about the difference between f-stops and aperture lens sizes and all this stuff. But this is the speedrun version because we haven't done one of these in a while, and we wanted to bring people up to date with a little bit of the recommendations, since I have several people who are asking actually.
For me, so
I
can't speedrun like we got to do the any percent skip here. Yeah. What do we have anything else on the docket?
I think that's about it.
I think we're pretty much done. I think
so.
I remember. If there's anything else, let me know, and we'll go through it. But
no, I think that's it.
Noms.
Here's where we go and plug our Patreon that currently doesn't have any tiers, but we'll get tiers set up for it.
Oh, nice! You have a Patreon?
Yeah, it just got set up right before the show. Give us money. Well, you can't actually give us money because there's no tiers yet, but give it like an hour or two, and we'll get some more stuff set up on here. By the time this is released, we are on a whole bunch of podcast platforms, not just the ones listed. So we have Amazon Music, we have Podbean, we have Spotify, we have Podcast Addict, Deezer, and of course iTunes, and we'll be on a whole bunch of more platforms than these. If you just search for us, it probably will come up. If there's one that's your favorite, just send us a message on Discord or Twitter or something. I don't know about that. No. There's a way, but I'm not actually trying to make money. Somebody check us. How do I make sure the money only goes to you and not Sal? The idea of the Patreon was so that it supports the show and it supports both of us.
Don't listen to this fucking troll, dude.
Okay.
It's okay.
I think that's about it.
How do I make it so that my tech advice only goes to the rest of the chat and not Tetra? How do I do that?
We could ban him so he can't see chat.
Is there any way that we can just have a filter over his ears so that my voice doesn't come through?
If this was the Matrix, we could censor him out, but I don't think
Could be a simulation. This is possible.
It is possible. Oh well. I think that's about it.
All right.
Thank you very much for joining me for episode 8.
Yeah.
Let me know what you want to see next week, guys.
Yeah, that's one thing that we got. Are we doing a Discord and shit, or what are we doing?
As in, like
Are we?
starting a Discord for this only,
Yeah,
or
I guess
like,
we could just use the Patreon only, just for questions and stuff to cover.
yeah. So like, well, one thing I want to mention here is that all of our episodes are going up on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube so that we can multi-stream on Twitch and YouTube in the future, and that you get updates. And then just post comments in the YouTube section. We'll check those out. All of the videos, past and present, will be on Patreon, and we might do some 24-hour exclusive, whatever. But
Yeah.
for now, after like 24 hours, all of the content that we post will be on Patreon for free. This is not going to be behind a paywall, is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
After
Okay.
24 hours at least, I'll make that promise.
Oh
And
yeah, try
then,
to get people into the Patreon
right,
ecosystem.
right.
Oh yeah.
So if you do go to Patreon, it'll be public after 24 hours. Just comment there. It'll be public. We'll see it. Probably better than Facebook. Probably better than YouTube swallowing it. Who knows? Okay. I think that's it.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you very much, everybody. See you next week.
Take care.